Hey, Jason. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
For everyone listening, Jason is a powerlifting coach and he's also a gym owner, which is why I think he would be an excellent person to learn from. He also doesn't train any normal people like me. He only trains really good powerlifters. So there must be a massive amount of things to learn from you.
Hopefully.
Yeah. For the ones only listening, he also looks a lot like a powerlifting coach because he has, not only is he wearing a brand called SBD, which stands for squat, bench press, and deadlift.
Same as you, mate.
Yeah, of course. Have to represent the sport. But he also just wears a hat. I don't know. For me, he just...
It's the coaching hat,
Yeah.
It's where all my thoughts are underneath it.
Ah, okay. Nice and hidden. For the ones who don't know what powerlifting is, you actually competed yourself last week as well.
I did. Something like that.
Something like that. Well, you said it went well. What does doing well in a powerlifting competition mean, and what is powerlifting?
Primarily, powerlifting is a strength-based sport where you are testing your 1 rep maximum lifts on your squat, bench, and deadlift. So basically, as much as you can lift for 1 rep for each, the squat, the bench press, and the deadlift. And then your, score is like the total, which is the summation of all 3 lifts. So if you squat 100 kilos, you bench press 100 kilos, and you deadlift 100 kilos, your total would be 300. And I'd be like, why are you squatting what you're benching?
Yeah.
But essentially that's how it works. And then alongside that, you have weight and age categories. So you can either compete as like a sub-junior, which is under 19, junior, which is 20 to 24, and then open, which is anybody. And then we have like masters categories, which are essentially like 40 and above.
Yeah. For the squat, bench, and deadlift, maybe briefly to explain. So the squat is you have a barbell on your back, which is just a big bar with a lot of weight on it.
Yep.
And then you have to bend your knees, go below what they call parallel.
Basically like you would sit down to the toilet.
Exactly. Bench press is you lie on a bench and then you have to, it's like a reverse push-up pretty much, also with a barbell. And the last one is a deadlift. Bar lies on the floor, but compared to Olympic lifting where you throw it up in the air, your arms are just extended, so you just slowly stand up with it.
Yeah, I think it's, simple, movements most people would have either seen or done in the gym before, but is also easily confused with weightlifting. A lot of people think that it's weightlifting or bodybuilding, but it's essentially like a derivative of weightlifting, which, in my opinion, is just a little bit less skillful.
Yeah.
Easier to get into.
To be honest, that's why I do it. It's just so much easier to do on a day.
Weightlifting's hard.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, what did you lift last week?
Great question. So within powerlifting, you get like 3 attempts at each. So like my first squat was 205, so that was good. So I went up to 215. That was good. So I went to 222.5. So this is all in kilograms.
Yeah.
So I squatted 222.5 kilos. Bench went 135, 142, and then 147, and they were all good. So you take the heaviest.
Yeah.
So I took 222 and 147, and then the deadlift was 247, 262, and then 275, and that was good too. So I didn't miss anything.
Nice. At what body weight?
I was 92.4 kilograms, to be specific. But under 93 is the categories. So I mentioned age categories before. There's also weight categories. So you are essentially competing against people of a similar size.
Yeah. What would you say is a really good lift?
Or for my...
Or maybe just set like expectations for listeners. Your very strongest guy athlete and very strongest female athlete, what do they lift? Independent of weight class.
So...
Just to set like expectations of what...
Yeah, like what is top level? I think it's probably the best way to frame it, to give like an idea of like what elite would be for my weight category. So those numbers that I just said, but like the world record would be like the squat is 340. So we're talking 120 kilos on top of what I did. The bench is 255.
Wow, okay.
And then the deadlift is 370 3, I think.
Okay. And this is all tested and unequipped, as in no stuff that helps you.
No steroids, no assistive equipment, just soft suit, knee sleeves, and wrist straps. So like, there's like a couple of things that you can wear, but like you're not really getting much out of it essentially.
Yeah, and a weightlifting belt as well.
Yeah, and a belt.
Yeah. All right, I think we have covered what is powerlifting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very simple sport. If anyone is actually interested in it, there's a lot of like really good resources on the internet. If you just chuck it in like what is powerlifting into YouTube, and you'll have something that'll pop up, and you should be able to watch like a 10-minute video.
I mean, you're also the first podcast veteran on this podcast, so maybe you can plug one of the ones you've been in.
I have a couple of friends that I've been on. So one called Lift Talk, which is one of my friends based out of Sydney. It was a gym that I trained at in Sydney when I lived there. And then another one called Barbell and BS, which is a couple of clients of mine actually run, and they're Scottish, so they're like through Scottish powerlifting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So check out those if you want to know more about actual powerlifting.
Yeah, Lift Talk and Barbells and BS, they're really 2 ones I would recommend.
Yeah. You also just mentioned something that I haven't mentioned at all yet. You're from New Zealand.
Guilty.
Your gym is in New Zealand.
Yes.
So let's maybe first cover what is it like to run a gym, because also you're, as I mentioned earlier, a full-time powerlifting coach, which you also do fully remotely, I guess. Which came first, powerlifting coaching or running your own gym?
It's actually a good question, because I was thinking about this the other day. They kind of were somewhat simultaneous, and I think it's important to provide context to the gym, because the gym, yes, I own the gym, but I think for like your audience's kind of understanding is it's more of like a club. So like if anyone's been to like a football club or like a rugby club or whatever, it's more in that vein where, like, you know, if you think about how those things are held together, yes, there's someone in charge, but the members really do a lot of the work within the community. So it's a lot of it's like that. So the way the gym itself started was that in powerlifting, like, there are specific pieces of equipment that are quite important to use.
And this is a pure powerlifting gym, by the way?
Yeah. Okay. So the gym is a powerlifting gym specifically, or, you know, you could call it a powerlifting club. But yeah, basically the way it started was like there was a whole lot of equipment that we thought people could benefit from having. And kind of the thing was, like, I had some equipment at home because I was training in my garage. Another guy had some equipment at home, and then another guy did. So we just thought, well, let's get together. Actually, one guy reached out to me and was like, hey, I've got this space, and was like, I know you guys all have equipment, and it's just it was just like a room above a CrossFit gym. And he was like, you just want to put... Pardon me?
The enemies.
Yeah, well, we did actually make a few enemies there, I'm not going to lie. So he just reached out to me and was like, hey, do you want to, like, put all our stuff together and we can, like, turn this into, like, a little bit of a club where we can just train. So the way it started, in which I think is, like, really important to anyone who wants to, like, undertake a certain, like, an endeavor such as opening a gym. Like, it just started with a really small community-based club that it was just a place where we wanted to train together, and then it developed from that. So it was never like I want to open a gym. I mean, I always wanted to open a gym. I've worked in the industry for, like, 13 years, right? So
before opening it.
Yeah. Okay. So 13 years now. So at the time, I think I opened the gym in 2017, something like that, 2018. But I'd been in the industry for a while, so I always, like, thought owning a gym would be cool. But that was never, like, the idea with the gym, which is called North Shore Barbell. It was just like, let's just have somewhere where we can all train. And then eventually we just outgrew that. And then it turned into, like, okay, let's get a proper lease, let's get a place. And then that's kind of where we're at today. We've been in a few different places. Like, we've had a few different leases, but...
So the place is co-owned between you and...
Well, I say I own the place.
You own the place, okay.
Yeah. I say we because it's very community feel. Like, I have people there that I don't pay, but, like, members, like, really look after it. But I think also what was a big driver for this is, the way it works is, like, I don't make money through the gym. The money from the gym goes into the gym.
Okay.
So I think that's really important to understand. The gym for me was a means to build my powerlifting coaching business, which is a really probably confusing for anyone to understand, because my coaching business is actually online, not in person, even though I own a gym. And yes, like when I was in New Zealand, I would have some people that I would coach in person, like really new people, but for the most part, like the way that powerlifting coaching is conducted as just like a norm is online. Like you've received online powerlifting coaching before, right?
Yeah.
And like I'm sure you figured that out pretty quickly, that that's the way that most people do it.
Yeah, that was also online. I sent videos and asked for advice.
Yeah, and that's basically how I was doing it, yet I still had a gym as well. So I would get face-to-face contact with members who I coached.
Are most of your clients back in New Zealand, or they're everywhere at this point?
Well, that was part of what I wanted to do when I traveled, was to like kind of like diversify like my client base. Because like previously, yes, when I was in New Zealand, everybody I coached was from New Zealand. It does create a few issues, because like when things occur, like our national championships, I'm coaching like 35 people, you know, and it's just not ideal. And like it makes for like really packed weeks of work. Yeah, like schedules all kind of at one certain part. Whereas like now that I've lived in Sydney and now that I've lived in London, I've picked up clients along the way. So just by like meeting people and training at gyms and stuff, I've been able to kind of like, you know, now I coach people in New Zealand, Australia, Europe, and in the UK. So like, yes, the majority of my clients are in New Zealand, but not everybody.
Okay. I'm curious, how come you put all the money back into the gym instead of having like spread your revenue somehow?
It's just not one of those things that I want to make money from. I'm not a super money driven person as it is. I mean, I coach powerlifting. Like if I wanted to make money, I'd go do something else. You know, like yes, it is a means to make money, but I do it because I love it. And when it comes to having a facility where people train, I'm like, I just want somewhere for people to train. Like that's all I really care about. Like it's very community based in the sense that like now that I'm not even there, like the people in the gym, they do a lot of the work, they look after it, they bring in new members and they talk them through, like, you know, I mean, it takes 5-10 minutes, but you know, they show them around. And like a lot of the equipment is owned by the association. So like the regional, like Auckland Powerlifting Association owns a lot of the equipment. So, you know, I'm not really that interested in making money off it. I just want to keep it going more than anything. So that's one part. The other part is I'm lazy.
Okay, fair enough.
And I put a lot of energy into my coaching. So that's my priority. The gym itself is more of it was kind of like a passion project in a way.
You actually touched upon a topic that I want to learn about more for myself, and actually is also part of the reason why I have this podcast. You said you're not that money driven, and you're in this industry because you love it. How do you manage to maybe not compare yourself to other people, and how do you? I mean, first of all, it's beautiful that is really where you find your joy. Maybe as well for context, both of us live in London right now, where I mean, you feel like there's constantly someone better in whatever you do.
Yeah.
Somewhere. Like you go to a powerlifting gym, there's 100% someone stronger in there, I bet.
Yeah.
For people who are career driven who move to London, there's always someone richer. For people in the art scene, there's always someone more famous.
And you have to pay rent.
And you have to pay rent in the city.
And it ain't cheap.
Yeah, no. So was that ever something you had to struggle with, thinking like, oh, this industry is maybe not the most financially lucrative, or?
To be honest, actually being in London has given me a bit of a kick up the ass, like with regards to being exposed to more like pressure from other coaches and actually wanting to be better. And I wouldn't say better than other coaches, but wanting to be better because you see
what means better in this case,
like being a better version of myself, like being a better coach. So learning more.
Okay.
And not getting complacent in what I do currently. Because it is quite easy to be like, okay, my client roster's full. I'll just like, you know, go through and kind of do the same thing day to day. But being here has exposed me to a lot of like other ways of thinking, because the way that people do their powerlifting training here or the way that people conduct their coaching is different to like how it's done at home. So it's exposed me to a lot of different thought patterns, which has been really good because it's questioned my thinking and it's made me just be more critical. So I've actually really enjoyed the pressure there. Plus, like, look, there's there's probably like fucking 150 different powerlifting coaches in London. Sorry, not London, but the UK, let's say. Back home, there's probably like 4 or 5.
Okay, yeah.
Like that do it full time. I mean, there's probably more. Like now, I think it's growing a little bit since I've left, but like, let's say 10 or so. So there's just more people doing it. You're exposed to more. I meet more people. I'm exposed to like different conversations about things. And I think that kind of like, I did have a thought of like, oh shit, I should need to like kind of like keep up with some of this new stuff. So it's really helped with my complacency being here. So like historically, I've probably been a little bit more comfortable, but like you said, you are like, there's a bit of pressure here, like just like you were saying. And I think that's actually kind of beneficial to me. Like I don't feel like threatened or anything. I just think it's a good environment to learn.
So what in life would you say brings you happiness or fulfillment?
From coaching?
Or in general, I mean, I guess coaching is a big part of it because, as you said, this might not be the most financially lucrative industry unless I guess you're an influencer at the same time and make a ton of money that way. But
yeah, not me. I ain't influencing anyone.
Not yet.
Well, that's a good question. I think like specifically like with my work, I like it because it's something don't get me wrong, it has its like ups and downs, right? What I love about my work is the ability to meet people from all different walks of life and like learn from different people. And I don't mean like learn like, oh, I'm getting better. I mean just like, you meet people when you learn shit, right? It's just kind of how the world works. So I like that. It exposes me to people that, I sometimes find myself in situations with people and I'm like, I never would have met these people in my life had it not been for powerlifting. And, so I think like that is what I really like about it more than anything. It is fulfilling in the sense that you get to see people achieve things. But honestly, I think that's more fulfilling for them. And I think it's like I like to see them feel fulfilled. I'm not sitting...
just because it's more fulfilling for them doesn't mean it doesn't have to be fulfilling for you, right?
It is for me, but it's not what I get most out of it, if that makes sense. Like if a client does not so good, like, I don't know, what's the best way to frame this? Like for me, I'm not like, I guess I just don't look at my job and think, what I really love is seeing people achieve these things. And yes, it's part of it. But to be honest, I think like for me, just personally, because that's kind of what you're asking, right?
Yeah.
I just like meeting different people from walks of life. And like, I get just kind of like, I don't know, being exposed to that for me is like really interesting.
Is that what drives you? Like the little dopamine hit of meeting someone new, getting to know them?
Yeah, I think so. Okay. Yeah. And just like, and I guess it does, like, don't get me wrong, it falls into like when things click and their training clicks and you're like, yeah, this is it. This is now we're working. So it's really nice there. But, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, it is fulfilling. It's hard for me to say though, as I'm talking to you, I'm thinking about this because I do think there is a level of fulfillment in it that I just think I'm kind of accustomed to now.
Yeah.
And have, like, let's just say I was going to go work in fucking Sainsbury's, I think I would then realize that, oh shit, I actually was really enjoying like how much I got out of like seeing people achieve things that they thought they couldn't achieve.
Yeah.
Because there is that, but I'm just so used to it,
Yeah, that's fair.
You just become accustomed to it. Like I've been in online coaching for like 7 years now. It's been full time for like 5. So it's just kind of like, yeah.
I've actually been thinking about why I personally enjoy powerlifting so much. And I think it's you constantly set a new goal. Like for me, the first goal was, I think that most guys have that start lifting even if they don't do powerlifting, because like the 100-kilo bench press.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. But it's like the second you hit it, you're happy for like 10 minutes. And right after you're like, oh man, this is nothing. I can do 110. And I've been chasing the 220-kilo squat for so long now, and I haven't done it yet. Somehow not having hit it is just what keeps me going, keeps me happy. It's like, I feel like the second you hit it, you're just almost depressed. And I can imagine if you're a coach, you might get it maybe a little bit less because it's not your own numbers, but you get it maybe from someone else.
Yeah, I guess I'm just like, if they're happy, I'm happy, right? That's how I feel. even if like, maybe what they do is really good and they're not happy, like then it still like mars it. It needs, like, I think I just get enjoyment from seeing them do what they like, just enjoying the process. And I think kind of actually just thought that just came to my mind is something that I really enjoy is like also seeing clients like who have maybe just been like very reserved throughout their life and maybe they don't have a lot of friends. And then you see them in these environments and they find their community and they change as a person and they become more confident and they just kind of find their thing. And you see them kind of thriving in that. Like I always remember, I don't know what competition it was. I think it was like our national champs in like 2021. It was in Palmerston North, which probably means nothing for anyone. But I remember like seeing, like sitting in the crowd just on my own. I was like, I'm just kind of sick of people at that point. And I just remember seeing like a line of people sitting together. And I was like, they were all like people that I'd coached. And I just remember thinking these people never would have met each other in any other world, but they've kind of found this like common interest, and now they've like got friends. And like honestly, some people that I've met through power, actually a lot of people who I've met through powerlifting, like that's their only friends are in powerlifting, but they find their community, and you can kind of see them thrive in it. And I think that's just fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's true. I think a lot of gym-based sports are actually very tribal.
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting. Whenever I go to the gym, it's like you can spot who does which sport as well by brands. Like we already mentioned, you and I wear SPD right now, which stands for squat, bench, deadlift. The three lifts you have to do. But you can, through Reebok or whatever, you can directly see, oh, that's a CrossFitter.
Yeah.
Bodybuilders, I mean, you just spot them.
Yeah, and if you see them in the gym, like I go to any random pure gym and you see someone wearing an SPD shirt and you're like, g'day mate, how's it going?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that's quite beautiful. There's definitely a community in there.
Yeah, I think like for me, there's two arms to it. Like what I enjoy out of it, like number one is what you said, the objectiveness of it, right? Which is like, this is something that I'm working towards. I know that if I do this work, I can get there, like it's an input-output based sport. Yeah. It calls you out on your bullshit, like if you are not sleeping, you're out drinking, you're partying, like you're not going to progress. So it kind of makes sure that you've got your life in check in order to progress, which I think has a lot of inherent value and gives me structure in my life. But then the other side of it's the community, right? And like that's something that I've had to lean into just as training has become less and less of a priority, the older I've become. Like we talked about, I competed last weekend, but none of that was my best lifts. Yeah. Like I was strongest like 5 years ago, but I've still trained that whole time. It's just been less of a priority because I've built a business. I've been through like relationship breakups and like I've moved 2 countries, bought a house, just shit's, I've been injured a lot, so it's just like when you lose that ability to hit those objective goals, I think for me, the thing that kept me coming back was the community. Yeah, that's a very good point. Let's go into how do you become a powerlifting coach, which I guess is very similar to become any other coach, but how do you make being a full-time coach your thing? Great question. And maybe as well, what do you need to have done to do it? Like, I haven't studied, let's take me as an example. I've been doing powerlifting for 10 years. I haven't studied anything sports science related. Like, what are the minimal credentials you need if you want to do this? And then how did you get into it? Well, the real answer is anyone can do it. You just post online saying, I'm a powerlifting coach now, pay me money. And then if people will pay you money, wham, you're a powerlifting coach. So that for me is an issue. So I did my master's thesis on, or we call it dissertation, but same thing, on online powerlifting coaching because there's no research on it. And basically my whole thought process was like, it's such a like cowboy industry that anybody can get into. So I'm like, well, I think we need some research in this area just to find out like what people are doing, how are people conducting their business, and like, what does that look like? So essentially I ended up doing that as like part of my master's. But it's an issue that in my mind that people can just get into it. Like for me, I got into powerlifting coaching after I'd already done my undergraduate in sport and exercise science. I'd been working in gyms for probably about 7 years at that point, something like that. And I kind of fell into it because at the time there wasn't a lot of powerlifting coaches out, but I was personal training and I was powerlifting to like a reasonably successful level. So people kind of like were like, "Oh, can you coach me?"
So your lifts itself were like the credentials. That,
Yeah.
like,
Well, yeah,
convinced
that,
people.
and also I did have formal education in there. So I think there's kind of two ways to answer this question. There's the literal one, which is like, how can you get into it? It's like you literally don't need to do much. But I think what I would recommend if someone wanted to get into something like this is actually spend some time competing, feeling it out, getting some level of formal education, I think is important, and then practice within the industry. Like, you know, I think a lot of young powerlifting coaches now coming through don't have those like soft skills because they haven't worked with people before. Like I say to a lot of people,
What are the skills? Let's maybe try to answer the question. What is it? What is a good coach? What are the skills you need to have?
yeah, well, you have to learn how to deal with people, right? Like I was just going to say to you, I think a lot of the skills from coaching that I developed were actually through like working in a bar, like in a pub, because you learn how to talk to people, you know, you learn to interact with people from all walks of life. And, you know, in a bar, you're trying to get money out of them. But when you're coaching people, you're trying to like get them to buy into whatever it is that you're trying to get them to subscribe to, right?
So is this all kind of like sales still, or are we talking about how do you handle any interaction whilst already coaching them? Like they text message you, because I think a lot works through WhatsApp or other messaging. It's not always phone calls. Like where does communication play like a key part in coaching here?
I think it's everything, but it is different. Like you're saying, it's often not always just done through like us sitting down and having a chat. It's often done via messaging or voice messages, or like a lot of my coaching, I just like send like recordings, like screen recordings with like a little picture of me in the bottom talking, like a loom, if anyone knows what a loom is. So yeah, but I think those skills are universally transferable, because it's not how do I communicate with you. Well, it is, but like it's how do I understand who you are, you know? And if I can know how to understand people and how to get the most out of them, you know, that's what's most important. Like, let's just say as an example, right? If I'm coaching you and you're squatting high and I need you to go a little bit deeper, how I give you that.
Sorry, squatting high means you're above the height that would count as a full rep in a competition.
Yeah, so it needs to be like hip crease below the knee, so sitting all the way down.
Yeah.
And it's part of the rule book, so some people will squat a little bit higher and you need to tell them to go lower.
And the advantage of that is if it passes, you can maybe get a few kilos extra in, I guess.
Yeah. So how I get that across to you might be completely different to how I get that across to someone else, because you might be okay with that. You know, let's just say you hit like your best ever squat, right? And it was high.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't too depth. I might just be like, hey, look, that was high. And you might be okay with that. But someone here who's like super excited about it and who was like, you know, couldn't wait to tell you, and is like, you know, you're kind of like breaking their heart by telling them, like, I'm going to communicate that a lot different.
So like manage it, or even being aware of like how someone's ego and all of that, I guess.
We just got to like know how to deal with different personalities, right? Which is why I think, you know, just having any interaction with people is important, because it helps you just understand more and you learn more. Like, you know, people are generally sort of personality types, right? So you kind of just put them in little baskets and know how to communicate with them based on that. It is hard though, because a lot of my interaction is online, so it takes a lot longer to figure out who someone is.
Yeah.
Without that, which is like when I start with people, I always like to have a call first, because you can try and get more out of them. But then again, some people are a bit shy.
Yeah. In terms of communications as well, it's one thing being a really good athlete versus being a really good trainer or teacher. How do you learn that? Is that as well part of the same communication, or is it a different type of communication? Because I know like for deadlifts, a lot of people round their back, which is bad. But then how do you
not bad. We don't have good or bad. Not in the sport of powerlifting. Everybody's built differently.
Okay.
So those are dangerous narratives. That's something I would never say. No, I would never say anything is inherently bad. Right? So that's because, you know, I could go out publicly and say, oh, you know, if you round your back and your deadlift, it's bad for you, right? And then 50 people could watch that and one person could remember that forever. And then every time that they deadlift with a rounded back, they're in fear of like hurting themselves, when in reality there's actually no research to suggest that it's actually bad for you.
So is it the movement of the back which is the more risky
Even
part?
That's fine. Just, I mean, like in my mind, in terms of efficiency of technique, you want it to be static. So yeah, that movement is not ideal, but it's not bad.
Okay, let's change the phrasing of what I wanted to say then.
Yeah.
Let's say someone has a less than ideal posture during squats or deadlifts or whatever. How do you communicate in a way that they understand it? Because people might have different references in their head of what a specific movement, and how do you say move more through your hip compared to your knees or whatever?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, that just comes down to like who the person is and what you're trying to guess. I mean, this actually bleeds into what I just said to you. One of the things I would never say is like anything's inherently bad. So let's just say someone sent me a video of let's just say like traditionally bad deadlift, right?
Yeah.
Which would be if you subscribe to this like perfectly biomechanical model of like flat back, using your legs, like how people suggest that you should pick up your boxes off the floor, all legs, no back. Let's say they subscribed to that. Like, I'm not going to go in there and say, oh, this is bad, because you can create a negative connotation of what is good and bad, and you would be surprised how much people run with those things. Like I deal with clients that still say things are bad from like coaches like 3 previous coaches ago, and now they're like paranoid that they're doing the wrong thing all the time. When in reality, if they just kind of quashed that narrative and just fucking moved on with it, they could just be getting stronger. And like, yeah, their back might be a little bit rounded, but who cares? Like, if you go to a high-level powerlifting competition, you're going to see a lot of back rounding.
But they also do it on purpose so that they have less range of motion, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's downsides to it, because you can, like, it can make your lockout slow. Like, the end of the lift gets harder, but that's kind of besides the point.
Okay, so if we run off the skill set, so communication, you said, is a big one. I guess the skill set is knowing about the 3 powerlifting lifts and accessory lifts.
Yeah, and you do have to know like how a good program runs.
Okay.
I think like a huge thing that I cannot wrap my head around how people do this is actually doing it yourself. Like, I know powerlifting coaches that either don't compete at all or haven't competed in a very long time. Or even trained for it. Like, they don't even train for it. And I'm like, I don't know how you could do that. Because like, when I'm writing you a program, I need to be able to put myself in your shoes and be like, what is this going to feel like? How am I going to feel on this day? How am I going to feel on that day? Like, and if you don't have that or any kind of understanding of how that works, then I don't know how you're going to do that shit.
Yeah.
Like, so I think knowing the sport and knowing what, let's say doing a 5x10 on squat, what that's like, is super important. So having some level of like practice in the sport is a huge thing.
Yeah. Also backtracking to how do you get your first clients? Because you said in this case as well, it was mixed with you starting your gym.
Yeah. So I think it was actually a little bit prior. For me, I did a lot of coaching for free for a while. So I was personal training.
Is that to get your foot into the door, or?
Well, it was because I didn't really know how to do it.
Okay.
So I'm not going to charge anyone for me kind of experimenting with them. But I mean, I knew how to write a training program because I was a personal trainer, but I didn't really know how to do it with powerlifting. So I actually coached a lot of people for free for a while. I coached my brother for free for a long time. But
your brother has to pay now, right?
Nah, he doesn't do it anymore. So yeah.
Does that say more about him or you?
Him.
Okay.
But like I had a lot of people that I just basically said like, hey, look, do you want to do this? Like this I want to try it out. And they said, yeah. And then they did it and they got stronger. And then I just kind of learnt along the way, really.
I mean, I guess that's a good way, but how do you then start charging people? Because my first powerlifting coach, I knew him from uni, and I started paying him like 50 euros a month.
That's good.
And yeah, I know I had a friend or early customer price, but had he at any given point wanted to raise it, I think at some point I raised it slightly because I knew, okay, I'm underpaying, but had he suddenly doubled it to his actual value, I think I would have been out. So I'm like, how do you then make it more and more lucrative financially? Because also you said you're not in it for the money, but you have to survive.
Yeah, so those early clients, I remember I actually, it was like a 10-week thing, you know?
Yeah.
It was like I want to coach some people for 10 weeks, kind of just like experimentally. And then so there was like a finish to it. And then after that, I was like, oh, if you want to continue on, you can pay me a little bit more. But what I was doing early on was charging fuck all. But you just have to, like, you know, in my opinion, if you want to get into something weird and niche like this, you have to have another job. Like, I was working in the gym, I was PTing. Like that general population stuff was what was paying the bills.
Yeah.
The powerlifting stuff was like I guess it was kind of like a side hustle, if you will.
Yeah.
So it wasn't my main job for a long time. So probably like I left my job, believe it or not, in January of 2020. And I was like, I'm going to do full-time powerlifting coaching. And then there was a fucking pandemic.
Oh, great timing.
Like, I could have been getting paid throughout it as well. But anyway, so yeah, it was probably like 4 years of doing it on the side of like my other job. And that was alongside the gym as well. So like, you know, just as an example, like when my life was busiest, building myself towards where I am now, I would like wake up at 5 a.m. I would go to the gym and work from 5:30 till 11. I would go to the gym, so like my gym after that, and I would work with my online coaching clients, so do all that stuff, and then obviously just deal with like in-gym admin from like 11 till 5:30, and then I would train from like 5 till 8, go home, eat dinner, and then go to sleep and just do it again. And I was also studying at the same time.
Sounds like a long day.
Yeah, I was doing my post-grad as well. So in the weekends I was studying. So like that I think gives a picture of all the things that I was doing alongside it. Number one, because like, you need to be doing other things. I can't just be like, I'm an online powerlifting coach, because it's not going to pay for a very long time. So you need to be doing work alongside that. But also like
How long does because you said in the beginning it was like 10-week programs.
Yeah.
How long does the average customer stay with you?
Well, I have a pretty good attrition rate. Like, I've got clients that I've been coaching for 8 years. But I would say pretty long. Most people, I actually calculated this not that long ago, and I was trying to figure out like the average length that someone was with me. I think it was like 3 years.
Damn, okay, that's a long time.
Yeah.
And I think for a coach, that's very good.
Yeah.
I think I was with my coach as well for roughly 3 years.
I think it's pretty common.
So how often do you need to, like
as an example, sorry to cut you off, but like, I think as I've got like from the beginning, like an inquiries, like Google form.
Yeah.
And I think I've had like 200 inquiries, and bearing in mind, they're not all stuck. Like I haven't actually converted them into clients. And I currently coach like 50 people. And that form was started in 2017 or 2016. Yeah. So I've still got a big chunk of like all the inquiries throughout the time that I've been coaching.
And then how many people do you coach at the same time? Because I remember at one point you told me you were full.
Yeah, so that's currently where I'm at. I think at the moment, it usually sits between 45 and 50, or let's say 40 and 50. But I think it's like 46, something like that.
And how much time do you need to dedicate to one client a week, let's say?
It's a good question because it varies. It kind of depends on the client. Like if the client's got a lot, like some people just give you more and then you can give them more back. So it takes a little bit longer, but to be honest, it's a little bit more enjoyable because you're a bit more engaged in the process. Some people are really low maintenance clients. They just kind of send you their videos and go, yeah, it was all good.
Okay.
Which is not ideal, but it doesn't take long.
Yeah.
Because, you can only work with the information that you're being provided.
I think that was me as a client.
But, an ideal client for me is telling me like, okay, I felt good on this day. This day didn't feel that great. This set felt really good. I feel like I did this. And then also being like, oh, this week went really well. But, I went out with my mates on Saturday and we had like, 12 pints or whatever.
Let's continue down on this road. Like, how are you a good client, or how do you work well with your coach? Like
communication.
Because one thing that I remember from when I was coached is sometimes I didn't do all my accessories because I was just either I didn't have time, I was too tired, I may have been lazy. What I
Yeah.
definitely was.
These all sound like excuses, man.
Yeah. But what I definitely was full of shame, and I didn't tell my coach if I didn't do all the accessories. So instead of telling him, and he would maybe condense the program, he kept the accessories in, obviously, because he didn't know.
Yeah. So that would be the primary thing, is being honest. Because like, if you want to get the most out of like any coaching experience, wherever it's from, the coach has to know what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm looking at your program and I'm reading what you're telling me and it's not the truth, then I can only go off the information I've been given, and I need to know what that is in order to like be able to manipulate the appropriate variables to get the most out of you. Plus, like, you know, if you're skipping whatever, you know, and again, you could apply this to a lot of coaching contexts. It's just a conversation we need to have. I don't care, you know, like if you're skipping things, I don't care. You know, like, sorry, but like if I cared every time somebody skipped a thing here and there, like I would be an emotional wreck, because I just can't have that much, you know, I can't have that much like emotional involvement in anything. So I think, whilst I kind of taking the piss out of you, but like this is a very common thing. It happens, you know, so like it's a normal thing. And I don't expect you to be perfect. I don't expect any of my fucking clients to be perfect. So if you're not perfect and you're not doing the things that you have been asked to do, it's okay. You just tell me.
Also, if we were perfect, we probably wouldn't need you.
Exactly. So, you know, and then if you're not telling me, then I can't have that conversation with you. You know, I want to be able to sit down and be like, okay, you're not doing those. That's fine. But like, what time do we have to work with? You know, what are the barriers? Why aren't you doing them? You know, do you fucking hate them? If that's what it is, then that's okay. We can change it up. There's always alternatives.
How should you communicate with your coach? Written, calling, or does that depend on your coach as well?
I usually have like a one time per week set thing that you have to do. So like I have them fill out a check-in questionnaire. So they check in with me and they answer a whole bunch of questions. And that's like required, like they have to do that. And then they're also required to like make comments throughout the week, just on like, you know, like how did this feel basically?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, they also have access to, like, I use an app for my coaching, and there's like a messaging service within the app, and they can reach out to me throughout the week, which is interesting. Because historically, I've leaned less into that, and I've just kind of like, you know, leave it for the check-in. We'll do it at the end of the week. But the more I work my way through this, I actually think there's inherent value in talking to people a little bit more frequently than once per week.
Yeah. Actually, what I liked the most with my coaching was, well, we just use WhatsApp, but I filmed my heavy sets, and I would directly send them, or after the training, and I would write down my notes, because I think if I would do the check-in later that week, I might not remember everything. If I just let him know that I didn't expect him to respond directly. For me, it would be fine if he responds a week later.
So how long after that would he usually get back to you?
I think normally he got back to me quite quick, like 1 or 2 days.
Okay, so this was part of my dissertation. Okay. Was like I tested 2 different arms of communication. One was weekly feedback and the other was like per session feedback, and how that influences certain outcomes, like, you know, whether it increases satisfaction or whether it actually increases people's totals. And like what I found was that both levels of communication didn't really influence the variables that we were looking at.
Yeah. So it depends, I guess, a little bit as well what your client would like.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I think about this so much. I mean, I fucking did my dissertation on, obviously I think about it a lot, but like I've been thinking about this a lot even more lately, because this year I've got a lot of travel, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think the day-to-day stuff would make more sense for me from a working perspective, because, you know, when I'm if I go through and check what you sent me in a day, it's just one day of thing.
Yeah.
Right. And I can break that down. I can do that quite quickly. But when I go through someone's whole week of training, it takes me like 45 minutes. Sometimes it takes me an hour.
Yeah.
So like I think doing it in that way and having that higher frequency of communication might be more conducive to like when I'm on the go.
Yeah.
But I just think that like I think it's just a really interesting topic, because different people do it different ways. I think like, and you know, you can apply this to any field, right? I think that when you do it in the way that you're like, basically what you said, you know, I might forget certain things if I don't send it through straight away.
Yeah.
And like you can do this for anything, right? Where you are more reactive in your feedback. But I think yes, I agree, but I also think that the potential downside to it is that maybe you're gonna go in and be like, oh, all the stuff that happened,
Yeah.
and it's actually not that important. So
You
maybe
don't see the bigger picture.
yes, exactly.
Okay.
And when you leave it a few days, and then you think about, okay, how did that session go? Actually, it was fine. You know, I've looked back on the videos, moved pretty good, and these are the actual key points.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Is that the better way? I don't know. This is why I'm always thinking about this stuff. So I think there's inherent benefits to kind of doing it both ways. But I think the real answer is probably catering it to the person.
Yeah. For me, one of the big reasons, or I wanted a coach for two reasons. I just fucked up my back, and I wanted to really get back into it, and I needed someone to hold me accountable, not to just go up and weight too fast.
Yeah,
and,
that's a good reason to have a coach.
Yeah. I fucked up my back, and at that time my heaviest squat was 180, and he made me go back to like 40 kilo squats.
Yeah,
and it took me half a year to get back to 100 kilos because if my technique was off, or like he told me like, no, you're staying where you are. And the second thing was also, especially it was around the time I started my first job, I just wanted someone to take over all the thinking for me. I didn't want to think about, oh, what do I have to do next? I just wanted someone to tell me, hey, do exactly this, and I just execute. So in this sense, for what you mentioned in terms of communication, appreciated that maybe he takes the helicopter view. I just tell him, this is how I feel today. And then he would look at my individual squats and be like, hey, we see overall the trend goes up there, or this is what you can do better, and just take away the thinking for me. That was one of the things I wanted. But again, maybe that depends on...
I think I get it. But I think that is something where a lot of like lifters shoot themselves in the foot, because
we give away responsibility.
You stop analyzing your own lifting in a way, and you do have to think about it, because I can't be in your brain. I can't feel what you're feeling. I need you to feel what you're feeling and then communicate it to me. So if you're just switched off and like being like, you just tell me what to do and I'll just fucking do it. And don't get me wrong, people do that. I think the people that I get most out of, like, where I get a lot of like really good progression with lifters is when they come to me and they're like, hey, this is like working pretty good, but I think like if we just did this little thing, like they usually come up with really good ideas. And don't get me wrong, I get a lot of shitty ideas that I'm just like, no, that's not going to work. But I think just having those like thought processes are really valuable. Yeah. Plus, like, if you come to me as a client and you're like, I really want to do this thing, like it might even be stupid, but if you're super bought into doing it, and it means you're going to train hard, and it means you're going to like give more effort to training, probably is going to work, right? So whilst I know where you're coming from, I'm also like, you don't want to go too far at the end of the spectrum of just like...
It makes a lot of sense to me now that you say it, because something I think everyone should do, and I've been doing for years, going to a psychologist. And I mean, it's not going there and she fixes me.
Exactly,
it's like, I need to put in the work and think as well. She's there to ask me the right questions.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, like, when I was a personal trainer, right, people think they're going to pay to lose weight. I'm like, you ain't... You're paying me to show you how to lose weight. And like put you in the right direction, but you still have to work fucking hard.
Yeah.
And I think that's sometimes, it's way less in powerlifting coaching, but there is that kind of aspect of like, I'll get the best coach, and then I'll get the best strong, and it's like, it doesn't really work like that. You still have to work super hard and be diligent and do everything right.
So how do you find the best coach? What are things maybe you should make sure that at least you don't get ripped off?
Yeah, well, again, like I said, pretty cowboy industry. So
let's say you're new to powerlifting. You're a 20-year-old guy or girl. You've been lifting for 2 years in the gym, just doing a bit here and there, YouTube videos.
Yeah.
How do you find a coach?
You got to go online. Like everybody's online, right? So Instagram, like everybody's conducting their businesses through Instagram. I mean, I'd say just have a look at what's out there. And what I always preach to people is to like interview a lot of coaches. Like don't think of it as like you're paying them, right? Yeah. You should interview them. Like don't let them tell you what to do.
Okay.
Like you should find what you like, who you click with, and then go down that route. Like don't just go to whoever is convenient or like whatever. There's a lot of options out there. I would just explore them and then find what works for you. But you also have to learn what works for you. So it's probably best to get in and like do some training, do some like just like cookie cutter program for a bit, and have a feel about what you like and what you don't like, just a little bit, you know. Because sometimes you get people that are fully clean slate, and it's just like it's kind of hard to know what to do. But yeah, like I would interview coaches and just probably also find someone that you just have like a bit of a connection with. Someone you can get along with is helpful, because if you kind of hate them, then it's not going to work out really well.
To be honest, what you say here is so relatable. Again, back to the psychologist thing that I said. Like, that's exactly how I'm a psychologist. I told myself I'm going to have take 2 weeks to meet at least five different therapists at the time, is what I told myself, at 15 to 30 minute calls with them, which were free.
Yeah, as they should.
And then after that, I was like, I'll pick you.
Yeah.
And then had it not worked out, I would have switched to the second best.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. And now you kind of know your options. I think you also kind of learn, like you might not even know exactly what you're looking for until you start talking to people.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think having those conversations is super important. But, you know, also word of mouth is like the big thing. Like, you know, let's just say if anyone here actually wanted to get into powerlifting, like join a powerlifting gym, talk to people, and then you'll kind of learn who's who. Like most people that I coach, it's like, oh, you coach my mate. Yeah. You know, can you coach me?
Talking about word of mouth, I mean, I would recommend you to people in this podcast, but you only coach people who've already competed.
Yeah.
Why did you choose to do that?
Well, you know, I just grew out of like teaching people powerlifting, you know, and I mean that like in an introductory sense.
Yeah.
It's just honestly, it's also a skill set that I'm not that well versed in anymore, because I guess just my demographic ended up being people who had a bit of a competitive history. So you just forget to, you know, like I had a guy not long ago, he actually kind of pulled me up on it, which credit to him. Like, you know, he did his first comp and he was like, oh, you didn't even explain all these things. And I was like, to be honest, mate, I haven't had someone do a first competition for years. And I didn't even think, you know, so it's just like, it's not a skill set that I really want to like try and like really get into. And there are people that do more introductory based stuff. And it's not where my passion lies. You know, my passion is more for like higher performance, not for myself, but for my lifters.
Okay.
More than anything. And like, look, not everyone that I coach is like super high performing, but like that is like the demographic that kind of ends up falling into my lap these days.
This segues perfectly into the topic we didn't get into earlier with the sleep, for example.
Yeah.
So one of the questions I have for you is, who would you say is your most successful athlete in the sense of, and maybe context for listeners, powerlifters is not a sport where you make a living out of it. You most likely have to have a job next to it. So who would you say is your most successful athlete at managing life, whether it's career, family, or whatever? And then also, of course, what can we learn from them? What is it exactly they do so well?
So I think it's an interesting one. I know it's a bit of story behind it, so so bear with me. But I think the best example here is most likely my highest performing athlete, and I shouldn't say athlete, my client. I hate saying athlete, but she's a 2-time world champion. She's actually made a decent amount of money in this sport. Are you allowed
to say her name, considering she's a 2-time world champion?
Yeah, Evie Corrigan. People will figure that out pretty quickly. So she's a 2-time world champion. She's actually made an okay amount of money in the sport because she's done like competitions that pay out pretty well. But I think what she does the best is she manages like her variables really well. And I think,
what are her variables?
Well, like her life variables, right? Like, so like people in powerlifting will call them like externals, which I kind of hate, but you know, just like she manages her things in life really well in order to allow her to perform well in the gym. So like, as an example, like ensuring that she's getting enough sleep. She has a nutritionist, so she's making sure that she's hitting her appropriate protein, fat, carbohydrate, calories. She's getting enough steps in.
Steps.
Okay. Sorry, it's my accent.
Early as well. You said like
steps.
You have a weekly check-in with them.
Everyone thinks it's chicken.
Yeah, I was like, you have a weekly chicken.
So if I said chicken, it would be like chicken.
Yeah,
but chicken.
So she has a nutritionist. She makes sure she gets her steps in.
Yeah. She communicates with her coaches really well, so she's very diligent with everything there. And, you know, she just has like a pretty, I guess, wholesome lifestyle, right? She's not out partying all the time and like doing anything debaucherous. So it lends itself well to an environment which is conducive to progressing and getting stronger.
So she definitely set herself up for this.
Yes.
Okay.
But so why I say it's interesting is because so back in New Zealand she was working a full-time job on top of all this. Like she trains, I don't know, 4 times a week, probably like 2 to 3 hours a session. So what's that, like 12 hours a week, something like that. She would manage that well on top of a job, because it's just, you know, when you want to perform at that level, it just has to be a priority. So your sleep's a priority, your nutrition's a priority, she's prepared with everything, and everything is very regimented. She lives a very regimented lifestyle. But so she used to do that back home, but actually now she's moved to Thailand, and she's basically living there doing a little bit of like online coaching and kind of training a little bit more full time. So it's been an interesting journey working with that, because, well, yes, now she's not working. You could be like, okay, she'd just be a full-time athlete. But now she's living in a foreign country and she wants to explore it and do things.
Yeah.
And, you know, they've traveled to Vietnam, to Kuala Lumpur, you know, to Malaysia, and like it kind of creates a whole new set of barriers, because, you know, now she's like, well, I don't want to like have to train all the time and be super diligent with everything, because I want to enjoy myself and I want to, you know, travel Southeast Asia and not have to think about training. So the good thing that she does really well, which I think allows her to actually do this, is the fact that she is good at periodizing it. For like 10, 12 weeks leading into competition, everything's perfect. You know, when it matters, it's really perfect, okay? But outside of that, and like, you know, even with things like, such as like her nutritionist, after a big competition schedule, we'll have a few months away from even tracking anything and just like not even worrying about it. So basically what she does really well, which I think is kind of applicable to fucking anything, is that when it matters, she's really focused in on it. When it doesn't matter so much, she's more relaxed. She does other things. She taps into other facets of her life that she can't do as much when she's like super training focused. And I think that's so important, because if she was to be like that year round, she'd be fucked. You would burn out before you know it. And
probably mentally and physically,
exactly.
Right?
And I mean, that's applicable to any line of work, right? You know, you might have a super busy period of work and it's like really tough. And you need that downtime. You need the holiday. You need just a reprieve from that like lifestyle, because it's just not sustainable.
I think something mentioned earlier as well with the periodization is normally it's 12 weeks prep before a competition.
Yeah, roughly.
But I guess in her case as well, she really knows how long she has to be regimented, and she knows when it's over.
Yeah.
Like I can imagine if you work in consulting, actually someone from consulting once told me as well that, yeah, you have those 14-hour work days, but you also sometimes don't have them, and you kind of know when you're in between projects.
Yeah.
So, but I can imagine what's really important is knowing that it will end.
Yes.
Because I think if you...
that's a really good point, actually.
Yeah, because if you think, oh, I have to work like this every day, but you don't know when it finishes, I think that's when you burn out.
Yeah. And that's what happens, right? It happens in all walks of life, because you just look at it and you go, fuck, this isn't sustainable. So part of my job as a coach is to say to people, look, this isn't forever. This is just for this period, and you will be rewarded when you do well. But you don't have to live like this forever. You know, we will have down periods where you can chill and you can do all these other things, because this is what I think forces a lot of people to quit, is because they go, I can't do this all the time. It's like, you don't have to. You can go in, I mean, you've been training a long time. You can go in through periods, and sometimes you just go in and you're going through the motions, and it's fine. And then, you know, like for me, signing up for this competition, like I've been going through the motions for a few years now. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to actually focus, and like, you know, for probably like 12 weeks, I'd say, like I trained properly. I didn't go out much, and like, you know, I ate the same thing every day and did all the boring things to be able to get the results that I did. Yeah. But I also walked away from that, and I'm like, I'm not doing that again for a while, because I can't be bothered.
Yeah. Actually, little side story here. When I learned how to code, go into data analytics, which I studied in my own time. I did that, and I was also super focused on my training. I never competed, but I was very regimented, and there was some fulfillment that came out of it, being knowing exactly what you wanted to do, which in my case was a career change, and just knowing like, well, Saturday morning I'm just gonna be coding all morning.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going out Friday night. And when my friend called me Sir Bail-a-lot, man, that was the best compliment I could ever get.
Say that again.
Sir Bail-a-lot.
What's that mean?
From bailing out.
Oh, Sir Bail-a-lot. Yeah.
So that was the best compliment.
Well, you know how I was talking to you before about like that period of time in my life where I was studying, training, and I was like, you know, working all day. That's the strongest I've ever been. Yeah. Because I was doing the same thing every day, and I had no opportunity or time to stray from that and go and do whatever. And like, I was just like, I mean, it probably wasn't very sustainable, but like I was so focused and I wasn't going out and doing all this stuff that I was just like, when I was training, I was like, I knew how I would feel going into each session because every day was the same.
Yeah. So, okay, I think this is a very important part of the whole podcast, because this is where I feel like most people can learn. So you mentioned periodization. You mentioned some things which I would summarize as getting the basics right, as in diet,
just looking after yourself.
Sleep. What belongs to looking after yourself that maybe a lot of people who might not train, not big into sports, but still want to really excel in their career, maybe should get down? I feel like sleep overall.
Probably sleep, man. Yeah. I mean, sleep's such a hard one though, because it's one of these things that like if you become hyper focused on it, it actually gets worse. Yeah. So like learning to know, like, you know, that getting a decent amount of sleep. Yeah. I think this is why powerlifting's so good, or training in general is so good, because if you aren't looking after yourself, you're going to train like shit in the gym. Yeah. And like that's probably also a litmus test for how well your brain is performing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And your mental health. So if you're performing like shit in the gym, you're probably not that mentally switched on, like in terms of like how healthy you are mentally and physically as well. So I think that if you go in the gym and you have a really bad session, it's probably gonna, essentially it calls you out on not looking after yourself. So maybe like, you know, when that happens, for me, for example, I'm thinking like, fuck, what have I been doing? You know, and then I'm like, oh, okay, went out on Thursday, went out on Friday. Yeah. Oh yeah, I haven't really been eating much and I didn't sleep much. And then I go, okay, I didn't like that. I like feeling strong. So I'm going to sort that out this week. And I think that really lends to me also getting better at my job and thinking clearer and just like feeling better as a person. Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not expecting anyone to be like, you know, shutting down their life and just sleeping 20 hours a night and eating perfectly. Like, that's unsustainable because it's probably also not healthy. But I think that, you know, training is a good way of knowing where you're at.
Here's a question where I could use your advice. And I fully agree on what you said there. Like, for me, how I normally track, am I healthy or not, is, do I feel like I need to skip the gym? Is it better for me to skip the gym today? Then I'm like, I'm sick. And to be honest, I do the same in my career sometimes when I'm like, I just can't concentrate. I might work half a day. I hope my manager doesn't listen to this. But I just know, like, if I get that rest in, I will work way more efficient tomorrow and literally catch up and do the same amount of work, if not more, by just having that rest in. And also another thing, too many side stories. No, actually, my coach back then, I told him I wanted to have my heavy bench day on a separate day as my heavy squat and deadlift day, because I felt like so much more mentally ready if I would just split it. And also bench press day, because it's overall lighter, it just gave me more rest. So my question is around where you're at physically and also rest, because oftentimes I am not sure if I sometimes am too mentally weak and I'm like, I should rest today. Or am I doing the right thing of being like, resting is the right thing? Because actually a guy I train with from time to time, he was like, oh, I admire that you're so good at skipping accessories. Where I'm like, I feel bad because I'm skipping accessories. I'm like, I'm not dedicated enough. I don't work hard enough. But I also skip them when I feel like, okay, I just don't have the energy. So how would you recommend for people
how to gauge that?
How to gauge it? Because, and this is not only gym, but like also at work, everyone needs to figure out, like, life is a marathon. Like, when do you have to call yourself out for
being lazy,
being lazy,
or calling yourself out for trying too much, going too hard? I think, look, it's a fucking outstanding question, because this is something that plagues my mind every day. You know, I mean, I think we all think this every day with a lot of decisions that we do. You know, like I wake up and I go, I should go for a walk.
Yeah.
I go, I can't be fucking going for a walk. Am I being lazy, or am I just leaning into what I should be doing?
Yeah.
You know, this idea of knowing what we should do is, I think, really, really hard. So I think the best place to start is like, you have to be compassionate with yourself. You're not going to make the right or wrong decision. You're just going to make a decision.
Yeah.
Nothing's right, nothing's wrong. So if you choose to skip the accessories or skip the gym, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's not a big deal.
You remind me of one of my, what a past manager of mine told me. He said, when you ever feel stuck with making a decision, the best is to make a decision and feel confident in the fact that you made the best decision with the information you have at the time.
Yeah. You can't look back on it and be like, oh, I should have done that, or I'm being a pussy.
Yeah.
You know, like, I think you just have to go with the information that's being provided to you, and then just, you make that decision. And then sometimes it's going to be skipping, and sometimes it's going to be not doing that. And I think this is probably where there's value in having a coach, because a coach will say, okay, cool, you're actually skipping too much. Or the coach will say, hey, look, man, you've been pushing hard for a long time now. Like, this is completely understandable. Plus, like you said to me, you're going through this work stress and blah, 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 whatever. And then they can kind of like weigh in on the thing and be like, hey, this is the direction that I want you to take. So I think there's value in having someone, and this could even be, let's just say, when a more like context for other people. This is like, this is when you talk to your friends about these things, or you talk to your partner or whatever, and you go, oh, fuck, what do I think? What do you think? I keep like not getting out of the house for the day, like I'm just like laying around a lot. They might be like, okay, you need to get out of the house or whatever.
Yeah.
So we also, whilst we can't expect to make the right decision, I think we also can't expect to make the right decision on our own. You have to lean into other people. This is why we're social beings, right?
That's a very good point.
We have to.
That's why we should have a coach who tells us if we're being lazy
or just
or not.
have friends, good friends,
Yeah.
So I think that like sometimes you can get caught up in your own shit, and it's just good to get perspective from other people.
Yeah.
But there's no real answer, right? We don't know. You never know, because you're never going to know what happened if you did the other thing anyway.
That is a very good point.
Yeah.
To be honest, I feel a lot better after that answer.
Yeah, well, you could have chosen to go into the gym and then got hit by a car.
Yeah.
So.
Because actually, when I was looking at my program this week, I know I have to be done with my 4 days of training by Friday. I had my first day yesterday, and I was like, should I go tonight? I was like, I don't have my diet right today, prepping for this podcast.
Yeah.
And I was also feeling somewhat tired. So I was like, I'm moving my next day to tomorrow. Yeah. I'll still be done by Friday. I just have, instead of 2 rest days in between, I have 1, which would be fine.
I think with training specifically, you can't expect everything to always be like good conditions as well.
Yeah.
I think there is a level of like, you just have to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't mean it. And I think what we just talked about before is probably priority, right? Like not worrying about making the perfect decision or not. But I think people do get caught up in like, especially in like the kind of weird fitness world that we live in, where everyone's always telling you about how to like biohack and like how to feel perfect, and like there's all this constant information about how you should feel. Are you doing this to feel good? Are you taking this to feel good? And it's like, fuck, do I feel good? Do I feel bad? I don't know. And the more you think about it, the worse you feel, or the better you feel. I don't know, depending on who you are. But I think sometimes you just got to go and get it done, right? You just got to go and be like, yeah, I slept shit and whatever. I think you just go in with the idea that if it feels terrible, I'll just go lighter. Because I always walk out feeling better.
Yeah.
No matter what. Unless I like hurt myself, I'm always going to walk out feeling better. And I'm, I guess, mature enough to know that like, if I'm in your situation, let's just say as an example, I know how far I can push it on days like that.
Yeah.
And to be fair, sometimes I go in and I feel great and I'm like, oh shit, that surprised me.
Yeah.
But I think just sometimes walking into the gym is like, that's just where you start. If you need to take it easy, you want to just do a couple of other things, then that's fine. But you'll usually feel better afterwards.
Yeah.
But hey, if you have to skip it, so what? Who cares? It doesn't matter. Yeah. If you, let's just say you were a client and you were saying that to me, right? If this is like off season and you don't really have anything coming up, I'd be like, yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
It's fine. If it was like 4 weeks out I'd be like, you need to come on, like, you need to get into the gym now. So it kind of depends. Again, it's phasic, right? It's periodized, these sort of like
That's very good.
this level of intent.
Yeah.
And like, let's just say for anyone who's going to the gym, if you have a goal and you're like, I want to do X, Y, Z, right? Like I want to squat 200 by the end of the month. It's like, okay, well, that month is going to get further and further away every time you kind of like don't go in and do what you're supposed to be doing. But if that's okay, then that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point. Because as well, what I mentioned earlier, to take this to a different industry, is like when I don't feel like I can focus that well at work, and I might be like, okay, I'll don't do the full 8 hours, but work harder tomorrow. If I know I have a deadline, of course, then it's just like push your way through it.
But your mindset's different when you're like that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You made me think of two other things. When you mentioned your client, not only does she do periodization, but she also only trains 4 times a week, which is the same as I do. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I should maybe train more. But I think that shows a lot as well. It's not always more is better. And it also shows, I guess, consistency is the most important thing.
Yep.
Just doing those 4 times a week and handling volume, I guess.
Yeah, well, like, I think what you said there is probably applicable to a lot of areas, right? Is like, what can I do sustainably?
Yeah.
Like, I think if it was 5, if it was 6, yeah, sure, you could probably do that, but is it sustainable?
Yeah.
And like, I think that goes for anything that you want to implement in your life. Like, let's say someone listens to this and they're like, I want to join the gym. I think a lot of people start and they go, oh yeah, I want to go 6 times a week. It's like, I appreciate what you're doing here, but like, you need to be able to like do it through tough weeks and do it through weeks where you don't want to do it, if you want to be consistent with it. And that's like overall what's going to get you to where you want to go. So yeah, having like a realistic level of prescribed training, I think, is important. But also that's kind of the nature of powerlifting. Like heavy, you can only lift heavy so many times in a week. So I think that's, especially with the way that she trains, like most training sessions are quite intense.
Yeah.
And it just seems to work with her.
Yeah. The other thing you mentioned earlier is you said at this point, how heavy you can go on a day where you might not feel optimal. And you very briefly mentioned injury as well. Because I guess that's also very important to know what is, actually I guess a lot of people are into F1 now with the Series 7 coming out like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And they talk a lot about being on the limit, which I guess are the same in training or maybe a lot of other careers. A friend of mine, he works insane hours and he tends to get sick, which I guess is similar to his overworking.
Yeah.
So I guess knowing as well how hard can you work without hitting that limit that then either gets you ill, injured, or whatever.
Yeah, it's hard, man. Again, there's just like no right answer and it's always going to fluctuate. This is why we use not always just like pure prescription in training. Like to put it easy, like sometimes I will prescribe someone to do something as like a number, like go in and squat 100 kilos for 5. Yeah. Then other times I will prescribe like go in and do a set of 5 at a 5 out of 10 hard, essentially. We call it an RPE scale, but that's kind of irrelevant to people listening to this.
Yeah.
So I think doing that 5 out of 10, whereas like maybe they are on paper both going to be about a 5 out of 10 hard, having that day or having that autonomy to be able to go up and down is super important, because that level of how hard you can push is going to fluctuate every day and every block and every month, just depending on what's going on in your life. I mean, we also get older every fucking day, so that doesn't help. Like what I do now for my training is way less than what I used to do.
Actually, how do you handle that? Because that is something I keep on thinking about. I'm 31 now. I'm turning 32 in 3 months.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering how many more personal records do I have in me? And then what is going to keep me going once I feel like it's too late?
Yeah, well, this is why I was talking about community. Like, that's what keeps me going more than anything. But, yeah, it's hard to kind of, like, dial it up and down based on getting older and admitting that that's a thing.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I can definitely do less than I used to be able to do. And I hurt more from... Yeah. I mean, I'm 33, right?
Yeah.
So, like, it's like... how I recover from sessions now is different from when I started, which was like, I started this sport when I was 24.
Yeah.
And you just can get away with less. You just have to be a bit smarter. But also what's kind of cool is it's made me realize how much I can progress with doing less.
That is a very good point.
Because problem that I've always faced is pushing myself too hard. because
Yeah.
I just enjoy training hard. Like, it's just what I like. You know, that's what I like about training, is pushing myself hard and, like, you know, working hard. Whereas, like, now I've had to pull it back, and I'm feeling like, okay, shit, I can actually still progress and do a lot less than I thought. So yeah, to kind of actually answer your question, is like, it's such a moving needle. It's just hard to tell. I think, you know, for people who train, they'll understand roughly what they can and cannot get away with. But the other thing, the other side of the coin, is if you're pushing yourself to be as strong as you possibly can be, you are going to deal with injuries.
Yeah.
You're going to hurt, and that's okay. That is part of the process. Like, you will survive. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. I've got a lot to say on pain and training because it's a very nuanced topic. But, you know, it'll probably bore people.
Yeah. I mean, we can have another episode on that at one point.
Yeah, it's just a really interesting...
And turn it into pain in life in general, and how do you handle that?
Yeah, well, exactly, because it's such a socially constructed thing, in my opinion.
Because I honestly, I really wonder how, like, those consultants do those crazy hours, and just like, why should I still do that extra hour?
Yeah.
I'm so tired.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Do you have any other athletes where you feel like there's something there that we can learn from them? The way they manage their life?
I think, like, I had a client. She's actually no longer working with me, but she worked, like, as a doctor, like 70 hours a week. And I just remember, like, you know, hearing about some of the stuff that she would do, and I was like, I don't know how you're surviving. I just think, like, you'd be surprised what you can get used to doing. So, like, in terms of, like, crazy work and then still training. But also, like, when that does, like, you know, for her, she would always, like, have these crazy hours, but then she'd take, like, a week off before competition, and then she would just get super strong. So I think, like, in those sort of situations, something that I learned from her is, like, you just got to keep going while you can, take the good with the bad, and then just, if you can get the right rest at the right time, you will come through.
That actually sounds very nice, because the other person we talked about periodization. This sounds like prioritization.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
You can only, like, you know, like I was talking about Evie, you know, she can prioritize it for 12 weeks.
Yeah.
This person's like 1 week, you know,
Yeah.
but she's still working in the background. She's doing what she can do. And, you know, like, I think in a sport like powerlifting, it can't be your whole life. It's like, you know, like you said, you don't make money from it.
Yeah.
You just can't have it be your whole life, and your life needs to work in with your life, right? Not your life to work in with it. Yes, there's times where you want to do that, but it's just not sustainable all the time, because we have to make fucking money, and we have to work, and we have to live, and we have to pay rent, or whatever it is, mortgage. So I think that your circumstances are going to be your circumstances regardless. Yes, there's things that you can control, and things that you can be better with, but you also can't expect to be better, right? So you can't expect yourself to be perfect. You're always going to fall short in some area, and that's okay. You still show up, you give it a crack, and you see how it goes. So I think, like, from her, I kind of, like, really realized, I was like, okay, you can put your body through this, but if you kind of get it right at the right time, it comes good.
To maybe turn this around again, because you said she does like 70-hour work weeks. Do you have any athletes who said, like, powerlifting makes them so much better at their actual job?
I don't think I've ever specifically had that conversation with someone that I coach, but it is a common thing in which people love the routine of it. Like, that's a very powerlifting specific thing, that people who fall into the sport are very routine people. And I think that kind of causes them to thrive, like, in the sport and also just in their life. And it adds, like, some people would find that, you know, it actually adds, as opposed to them already being routine, it adds routine and stability, which is a good thing. But I also sometimes have reservations around people becoming too overly regimented with it, and not, like, enjoying their lives, which also can become detrimental. You know, because you become so neurotic about having everything perfect that you get to a point where you're like, I kind of just fucking hate this because I have to do everything perfectly. It's like, no, you don't. You just, like I said, that chick, 70 hours. You know, like, you can get away with more than you think you can get away with.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's lower priority. That's fine.
Also, what I liked, actually, the two examples of athletes you used are both women, which shows this is definitely a sport that should not only be for men, because for men there's a stereotype. Every guy grows up, it's like, oh, I want to be strong, but yeah, there's some badass women in the sport.
Yeah, so, well, it's a, you know, as we kind of spoke about before, it's you know, when I was talking about the categories that you can compete in, it's a very wide demographic of people that do powerlifting. Like, it's literally for everybody. And it's so easy to get into because, you know, it's just doing squat, bench, and deadlift, which basically anybody can do.
Yeah.
I would argue anybody could do unless you're missing a limb or something, which hopefully no one is. But yeah, I think it's so easy to get into. And then, you know, you're always competing people who are similar size to you and similar age. So, you know, if you're worried about being super competitive, then that sorts that out. But at the end of the day, for most people, it's just them kind of trying to get better every time they train.
Yeah. Honestly, we've covered everything that I really wanted to cover in this podcast. And I actually want to repeat some of the things that you do say that I think is very important, because I base my life around many of the things you mentioned. And honestly, you mentioned a few more that I have incorporated, but maybe wasn't that aware of and could be better at those parts now.
Such as?
So the things I definitely already had in my life was like, get the basics right. Like, my ex hated me for always wanting to get my food and my sleep. And as well, my training, just making sure that I'm just very consistent. So consistency is a word there. Basics, consistency. Periodization, I didn't do that much, but I didn't compete. But I think periodization is something I should just incorporate in different parts of my life, like getting this podcast off the ground. Then prioritization is what you mentioned as well, which I think I do, but I just don't focus that deep into it, and I should, because there's just so many different things to anyone's life. For me, it's podcast, my career, my training, hanging out with friends.
You're trying to do it all.
Trying to do it all, but I just need to prioritize.
So just on that though, I've had a lot of thoughts about this because I've just done this comp, right? And I had to prioritize training and eating and sleeping and, you know, all the good things that make you strong. And I resented it a little bit because, like, I'm living in London, I'm not here for much longer, and like, I'm like, well, what am I doing wasting my time doing this when I should be, you know, going out and enjoying it? But I think something that people forget and miss out on is, like, when you do restrict yourself from that and then you go back to it, it's so much better.
That is so true, yeah.
And, you know, I went out a couple of times on the weekend. It's the first weekend that I've had out in London. I had a great time because I haven't been doing it every weekend. But when I do go out every weekend, I get sick of it. And that's what actually caused me to go into this competition, was because I was sick of going out all the time. And, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not going crazy. I'm still training all the time. But, like, you know, not like actually restricting myself was necessary for me to enjoy the things that I wasn't restricting myself.
That is so right.
And they become so much more enjoyable when you have kind of taken them away for a while.
Because for me as well, then there's no guilt in the background. You can fully enjoy it and not think, fuck, I could have been a data analyst, which I am now, luckily, because I restricted myself.
Yes.
But had I just gone out all the time.
Exactly. And I think there's so much value in restricting yourself to the point where you know, when you do have those, like, relaxed periods or whatever, you just don't feel guilty. And that's what I was feeling. You know, I was feeling like I was stuck in this mindset of, like, oh, I want to be enjoying myself, but I want to be training. And I'm like, I don't really know what I want. And then I was like, I'm going to do this competition. I know what I want going into that. And then after that, now I'm more relaxed. I'm chilling. You know, I'm going to take a bit of time over the next month just to enjoy myself and not train hard. And I can do that without any guilt because I know I put the fucking hard work in and I got the results that I needed to get or I wanted to get.
Maybe the next type of coaching you should do is life coaching.
Nah. Bro, I mean, half of, like, any sort of coaching is like coaching like that, right?
Yeah.
You know, you're dealing with people every day of the week.
Yeah. So maybe before we end this podcast, maybe give yourself a plug for the potential first listeners of this podcast. Where can people find you if they have competed already and they want to coach, or if they want to try to get you as a coach even though they haven't competed?
They can fill out an inquiry form.
Or if they just want a life coach, where do they find you?
Easiest place to get in contact with me would be on Instagram. So the handle is Jason V Clarke, which is all one word, _NSBB. NSBB is the acronym for my gym, so North Shore Barbell.
Nice.
But yeah.
All right. Thank you for having been on the podcast. This was a pleasure.
Thanks for having me, mate.
Hey, you made it to the end of the episode. Before you leave, can you please do me this one simple favor and subscribe to the podcast? It's your free and easy way to show your support for all the hard work we put into every single episode, as well as help us reach more people and get new guests onto the show. Thank you for listening to the Untold Paths podcast.